Hello there. Tonight, we're traveling back to a very distant morning, to the year 1325, when Europe was still trapped in long, bitter winters, when there was no electricity, no heating, and definitely no toilet bowls. You are in a small village, somewhere in the damp lowlands of medieval England. Outside, thick fog clings to the ragged thatched roofs. Fragile wooden walls lean slightly under the early wind. Church bells echo from afar, signaling it's time to begin a new day, though your body has no intention of obeying. You're curled up on a pile of old straw, spread directly on the cold dirt floor. No mattress, no bedsheet, no memory foam. Just straw, and bedbugs, and a rough old wool blanket, heavy with sweat, dust, and memories from last winter. To be honest, if you just time-traveled here, you wouldn't survive more than 24 hours. Maybe because of the cold. Maybe because of the drinking water. Or simply because you tripped over a chicken. So, before you let your shoulders drop, close your eyes, and step into an era where toothbrushes were still a luxury. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you truly enjoy gentle adventures. No suspense. No drama. Just dust. And an itch of unknown origin. Where are you listening from? What city? What time is it? Leave a comment, even just one word, so I know, out there, you too are drifting slowly to sleep with me. Now then, lower the lights. Turn on a small fan if you have one. And let's begin your morning, in Europe, in the year 1325. You wake up not yet fully awake. Your eyes open into the brownish golden blur of light seeping through a stretched piece of goatskin over the doorway. Overhead is a ceiling made of warped wooden beams, discolored by time. A few gaps reveal the foggy sky above. A draft slips through, bringing chill and the smell of damp moss. You're not dreaming. This is truly where you live. And you've lived here all your life. The bed beneath you is, in fact, just a pile of rotting straw, which lets out a squishy sound as you shift. That's from last night's rain. Water seeped through the thatch and dripped down onto layers of straw that haven't been dry since last season. You lie there, covered with a thick wool blanket, heavy, smelling of winter, sweat, and the memories of 3 generations. Beneath the blanket, your body is a free hostel for an army of parasites. Bedbugs, fleas, lice, mites. You've named a few of them, just to feel like you still have control over something in life. They don't attack you at night. No. They're your bedfellows. Living peacefully, until you move. Then the war begins. You try to stretch your back, a mistake. Your spine cracks like an old church door hinge. Your shoulders ache. Your hips are cold. And your legs are being breathed on by something soft and furry. You pull back the blanket. Not surprised to see the family's baby goat curled up sleeping beside you. In this hut, every creature has equal rights: goat, chicken, adult, and child. And you are not alone. On the straw beside you are your parents. A cousin from the neighboring village who's been staying since last year. And 2 twin siblings who always kick each other in their sleep. No private rooms. No curtains. No personal space. What passes for privacy here is turning your face to the wall, and pretending not to hear someone fart. The air inside is thick. Not just because last night's fire still smolders, but because of the smell. The smell of unbathed humans. Of unwashed feet. Of old straw. Of a hen that just laid. And a sick goat. Everything blends into a mix your nose has long surrendered to. Here, bad smells aren't impolite. They're just reality. You pull off the blanket and place your bare feet on the ground. A freezing sensation shoots up through your soles. The dirt floor is still wet from the night before, muddy, and streaked with a white smear you hope is fireplace ash, not something else. A soft squish sounds as your foot steps on something warm and soft. Could be chicken poop. Could be something you never want to identify. But you're used to it. Here, feet aren't just for walking, they're environmental sensors. You grope your way to the corner of the hut where your only piece of clothing lies, a coarse flax tunic. Heavy, damp, and stiff like tree bark. No underwear. No socks. No summer pants or winter coats. Just one outfit, for all seasons. And yes, it hasn't been washed since last month. You pick it up. Shake off some dust and insect husks. Then put it on with reluctant resignation. Outside, it's still dark. But the air is already alive. Roosters crow. Footsteps squish through the mud. Water buckets clatter. And the neighbor woman is scolding her husband, like every morning. No coffee. No phone. No mental prep for the day. Just one familiar sensation: you survived another night. You take a deep breath. And instantly regret it. Morning air here isn't fresh like a postcard. It's thick, damp, and smells like the breath of an old cow. But it is also the scent of life, of existence, of a new day beginning for no reason, except that the sun has risen, and the fields need people. It's been just a few minutes since your eyes opened, but already you've faced filth, cold, lack of privacy, aches, and at least one encounter with squishy chicken poop. And all of this, remember, is the pleasant part of your day. Because next is when you have to go to the toilet. And trust me, you'll never look at a bucket the same way again. You've gotten up, gotten dressed, stepped in chicken poop, and confirmed that, at least technically, you're still alive. But now comes the most unpleasant part of the morning, nature's call. And trust me, natural, in the 14th century is both a vague and horrifying concept. No toilets. No bowls. No paper. No flush. And certainly no gentle mint-scented breeze like in the ads. Just you, a wooden bucket, and fate. You step behind the house, where the family, heirloom, bucket sits beside the chicken coop. Calling it a bucket is generous. It's really a cracked wooden tub. Inside, you don't want to look. The smell rises like God dumped everything wrong with the world into one spot. You close your eyes, hold your breath, and do what must be done. But you can't escape the feeling of powerlessness. As if you're no longer human, but part of some anonymous biological chain reaction in the sour ecosystem of the village. When you're done, you stand up. Lighter in body, but not in spirit. Because the next task is to empty the bucket. That's right. Empty it. You lift the heavy bucket. Step to the front of the house. Look around. And prepare for a ritual no one teaches but everyone knows. Shout. Garde-la! It's an old French phrase meaning, watch out below. But of course, no one ever dodges in time. A second later, the full contents of last night's dinner, barley bread, cabbage soup, and a bit of despair, are flung straight into the village road. The road has no drainage. No sewer system. It's just a muddy ditch, regularly glazed with the combined waste of humans and livestock. Walking through it is an art, a challenge, and a gamble. The elderly are used to it. The children giggle. The visitors vomit on sight. You step back inside, thinking you've escaped. But little did you know, your village has a more sophisticated option, the public toilet. Don't imagine anything luxurious. It's a wooden shack. No door. No partitions. Just 4 holes carved into a single plank, for everyone to share the experience. Here, privacy is a fantasy. And ventilation is a lie. You sit shoulder to shoulder with strangers, united in size. And the bubbling sounds beneath the pit. There might be some small talk, but you try not to breathe in, because that would mean risking your very dignity. Toilet paper? Sorry, that doesn't exist. People use leaves, straw, old rags, corn husks, or if slightly wealthier, a scrap of wool. Some use their hands, and then wipe them on the wall. Which is why handshakes never really caught on back then. If you were a noble, living in a castle, you might get an upgrade, the garderobe, a small chamber with a hole in the wall, dropping waste directly into the moat. Sounds convenient? Perhaps. Until enemy soldiers sneak in by climbing up that very same hole. Yes. They literally stormed the castle from the rear entrance. Whether you're a peasant or a baron, the medieval bathroom experience has one thing in common: it's filthy. It's cold. It's public. And it's dangerous. One misstep, and your face meets the ground, literally. And that ground has never been a friend. Once it's over, you return home with a quiet sense of gratitude. Because this time you didn't fall. You weren't seen. You didn't get scolded. And most importantly, you still have both socks. You look around, exhale, and think, this is the start of a new day. But truly, that was only the warm-up. Because now it's time for breakfast. And breakfast in the year 1325 is its own kind of creative psychological torture. You think that after surviving the medieval bathroom nightmare, you deserve a proper breakfast. Something warm. Tasty. A reason to keep on living. But sadly, you're in the year 1325. No cappuccino. No toast with peanut butter. No poached eggs. And definitely, no one is asking if you want healthy or full carb. You sit down, or rather crouch, beside the pile of dying embers in the corner. In front of you is a pitch-black clay pot. Inside is the only food your family could scrape together this morning: pottage. Pottage isn't a recipe. It's a living entity. A warm, thick, lumpy something. Basically, it's everything left over from previous meals: turnips, onions, bean skins, a few wild greens, a bit of fermented oats, and maybe, if fortune smiles on you, a bone. Not to eat. Just to add a meaty aroma. That pot has been around longer than some family members. Every day, you just pour in more water. Toss in whatever you can find. The pot is never washed. It simply continues. Like your life. Beside it is a loaf of bread. Loaf is being generous. It's as hard as river rock, and nearly the same color as fireplace ash. It's made from rye or barley flour, the poorest, roughest grains. If harvests are bad, people mix in sawdust, ground bark, even clay, just to stretch the portions. And you don't slice the bread. You chip at it. You grab a corner of last night's chipped loaf. Dip it into the pot. Take a bite. Your jaw reacts as if it's been betrayed. The bread strikes back at your gums like a cruel reminder that dentists won't be invented for several more centuries. You swallow. With effort. And wonder, what do I drink now? No tea. No coffee. No filtered water. Well, there is water. But you shouldn't drink it. The village well isn't a water source. It's a bacterial buffet. Filled with worms, parasites, and eggs in every shape and species. Anyone who drinks it has two outcomes: sick or very sick. The solution? Ale. Specifically, small ale, a low-alcohol beer, weak, watery, but strong enough to kill some unwanted gut inhabitants. It's homebrewed, light, bland, but safer than water. Even children drink it. Not because anyone wants them to, but because not drinking it could be fatal. So, at 6 a.m., you clink wooden mugs with your mother. Her cup has a chipped rim. If your family is doing well, there might be cheese today, hard, salty, slightly moldy, but edible. Occasionally, a boiled egg or a slice of cold pig fat. But most of the time, it's just pottage and bread. And if today's lucky, you won't find a worm in the pot. Fruit? Only in season. And if you do have some, it's probably already fermented into wine. As for vegetables, it's mostly the cheap root kinds. Watercress, leeks, turnips. No salads. No one has time to slice tomatoes. In fact, tomatoes haven't even arrived in Europe yet. Spices? Dream on. A pinch of black pepper could buy you a new pair of shoes. Salt is as precious as gold. Everything you eat tastes like faint dirt, dry leaves, and a bit of char. Most dishes are seasoned with smoke. You eat slowly. Not to savor, but because chewing too fast might break your teeth. This breakfast doesn't energize you. It just happens. Like everything else in your life. Across the hearth, Your grandmother sips her ale and mutters something about last year's plague. A cousin gnaws on bread like it's stone. And the cat, one-eyed and mostly deaf, still sits near the pot, hoping for a miracle. It doesn't happen. You stand up. Still hungry. Still dry-mouthed. Still vaguely annoyed. But it's time to begin your workday. A day that will last from the moment the sun rises until your legs give out. But before you head to the fields, you pull on your thick cloak, the only thing standing between you and the hail, the wind, and the cow dung. Because this is the Middle Ages. And no one cares if you slept well. They only care if you've finished your part of the land. You've finished your so-called breakfast. Your stomach isn't truly full. Your mouth still holds crumbs and the faint sour tang of weak ale. But no matter. The sun is up. And for someone living in the 14th century, that means one thing: you have to get up too. If not, the fields won't be tilled, the turnips won't grow, and you won't survive the coming winter. You step outside. The air cuts like a blade. Pale morning light seeps through the mist lingering above the fields. The ground is wet. Mud clings to your heels. The chickens have been up for hours, and a few children from the neighboring village are already barefoot, yelling, chasing a duck whose owner is unclear. You slog across the yard. Grab a wooden hoe with a cracked handle. And begin your day's work. Your job, like 90% of Europeans at the time, is farming. Not the kind with tractors or fertilizer. You're the kind of farmer with sore hands, a small patch of rented land from the local lord, and a vague hope that this year's pests will be slightly less devastating than last year's. You start by checking the turnip rows. Not out of love, but because if you don't, the chickens will eat them all. Then comes weeding, hoeing, hauling water in a giant wooden bucket. A simple job, but as exhausting as training for a marathon. A marathon where the prize is not starving. Time drips like thick honey. Every time you look up, hoping it's close to noon, the sun has barely inched across the sky. Sweat pours down, even though the air is still cold. Your hands blister from the hoe. Your back feels like it's been kicked. But you don't stop. No one stops. Because here, if you stop, you go hungry. And if you go hungry, you die. That's it. If you're a woman, your day is even more multifunctional. Not just farming. You cook. You wash. You mend. You calm children. You tend livestock. You chop wood. And sometimes, you soothe a husband furious over a missing sickle. Children? No school. No homework. No recess. They get small hoes. Small brooms. Buckets of water. They begin work once they can stand. A 5-year-old can pick greens. A 7-year-old can milk a goat. A 10-year-old? Nearly a full adult, just missing a few front teeth. You pause briefly to rest. But don't dare sit. Your clothes are already dirty. Damp. Itchy. If you sit down, you might not get up again. You glance around. The neighbors are working too. No one talks. Just the sound of breath. Of hoes striking earth. Of buckets clanking against stone. And soft sighs, like the land itself is groaning from being worked to death. No lunch break. No midday meal. Just a moment when the sun hits its peak and you gulp down a leftover scrap of bread. As you chew, you scratch, because the lice never take time off. Every time you bend forward, your spine feels like it's being split. But still, you keep going. Because you have no other choice. If you're luckier, maybe you're not a farmer. Maybe you're a blacksmith. A tanner. A potter. A weaver. Sounds skilled, perhaps, but still manual labor. You work in a dark, cramped workshop filled with smoke and chemicals. You use hammers, knives, bare hands to handle raw hides, hot iron, or animal pelts. No gloves. No goggles. No insurance. Maybe you earn a few extra coins. Or maybe you lose a finger. Tanning leather is a special aroma. The smell of raw hide soaked in lime, mixed with dog feces used to soften it, creates a scent that could send any lover running for the hills. But someone has to do it. Because hunger is still worse than stink. You know your day isn't over, even when the sun sets. You still have to clean tools, feed the chickens, patch that torn tunic, or wipe the blood off your hand because you missed a nail and hit your thumb. You expect no thanks, no reward, no day off. Because the only thing you get for finishing today's work is the chance to eat tomorrow, and repeat everything again. There's no concept of career, no idea of self-improvement. You don't get to rediscover yourself on a journey. You know exactly who you are. A person trying to survive in a world full of bugs, cold, and debt. Lords? Yes. They sit above, drink wine, collect taxes. Every harvest you owe them a share of your crops. Whether your yield is small, large, or ruined, you pay. If you don't, you're kicked off the land. And getting kicked off the land means death. You don't work because of dreams. You work for survival. And if you have a dream at all, it's this: to get one day off when the rain is heavy, or when plague returns. You've worked from the time the sky was misty until it turned a dull yellow-gray. The sun never truly shines here. It just hangs like a half-boiled potato in the sky. Never quite warm, never quite bright. You return home with numb hands, heavy shoulders, and a kind of tiredness so familiar it almost feels like a friend. But the day isn't over. Now comes the hardest part: surviving the night without freezing in your sleep. Because this is a European winter, in the 14th century, a time when warmth only existed in fairy tales, and reality was made of frost and mold. You push open the door of your hut. Cold wind slips in behind you, like an uninvited guest, who never leaves. Everyone is already gathered near the fire, or what's left of it. Just a pile of flickering embers trying not to die. No fresh logs. No coal. Just twigs you've foraged. Dry roots. And sometimes, dried cow dung. And you must be careful with firewood. Not all forests are free. Many belong to the Lord, or the church. Pick the wrong stick, even just a twig, and you could be fined, or tied to a post, for all the village to see. It's cold, but the law is colder. You remove your heavy coat, hang it on a crooked nail in the wall. In the corner, your sibling shivers, hands red from the cold. Grandma is wheezing under a blanket that may be wool or moss. You sit down near the embers, hold your hands out, hoping for enough heat to keep your fingers from stiffening. There are no heaters, no glass windows, no radiators. The door has gaps wide enough for your finger. Wind blows in from every direction. Every breath leaves a trail of pale white mist that floats just in front of your mouth. You pull your blanket up, hug a pillow, lean into your family. Any warmth you can steal is worth it. You remember last night, when you woke up in the dark, so cold your fingers wouldn't bend. You sat up, shaking, trying to rub your legs so blood would return. The cold here is not like in the movies. It's not romantic or pure white snow. It's a slow knife, shaving you down, hour by hour. You try to remember the last time you truly felt warm. Maybe 3 months ago, when it only rained, not snowed, when you could still go barefoot, without stuffing straw into your shoes to keep warm. Speaking of shoes, if you're lucky enough to have a pair, they're made of rough leather. No lining. Not waterproof. Every time you step outside, snow seeps in, freezing your bones. Then, when you return indoors, they stiffen into ice. You dry them near the fire, but not too close. If they burn, then this winter you only have socks. Winter nights are long. Very long. Darkness falls by around 4 p.m. And even by 8 the next morning, you may not see a single beam of light through the fog. In all that time, there are no lamps, no books, no radio. Just the flicker of fire, the howl of wind, and the old stories your grandparents tell to pass the hours. Time slows. Everyone curls in, waiting for dawn. Some sleep. Some shake. Some just stare at the flames, like they're seeing something deeper than hunger. And then, a cough. A deep one. Harsh. Wet. You know that sound. That's the sound of winter deciding who won't make it to spring. In the 14th century, a cold isn't trivial. It could be the start of something worse, pneumonia, fever, or slipping away in your sleep. There are no doctors. No antibiotics. Just warm water, if there's still wood, and whispered prayers. You watch your mother spoon warm pottage to your grandmother. Her hands tremble. Eyes puffy. But still, she hums a lullaby. Something familiar. As if singing is the only way to hold the cold at bay. You think of the people your village lost last winter. An old man who never woke. A child who coughed until his lips turned blue. A woman who sat quietly in the corner. Then faded. Like a candle no one noticed. Death comes slowly. But surely. It doesn't announce itself. It just whispers. Tonight you weren't warm enough. Sorry. You tighten your blanket. Move closer to the fire. Place your hand on your sibling's shoulder. Their skin is ice. You rub gently. They smile. Their lips are pale. Outside, the wind rises again. A long, thin shriek through the cracks in the wall. The fire stirs. Flickers. Struggles. You know. Tonight will be long. And winter has never been short. It's late. Everyone in your house is curled up under old wool blankets. The fire is out. Only a faint red ember remains. Like a tired eye refusing to close. You shut your own eyes. Try to sleep. But your throat is dry. Burning. You're thirsty. Just a sip. A sip of clean water. Clear. Cool. Tasteless. Like the kind you've seen in those strange dreams. About a world with turning faucets and see-through glasses. But this is medieval Europe. And here, water is a gamble. A glittering form of Russian roulette. You sit up. Fumble through the dark. Grab the wooden jug in the corner. It's cold. Slick. A little slimy. You know full well, the water inside isn't clean. But you drink anyway. Because if you don't, you won't sleep. And tomorrow you have to till the fields. Everything here is a choice between bad and worse. You take a small sip. It tastes like dirt. And faintly metallic. Maybe a frog crawled into the well last week. Or someone washed fish guts beside it. Or maybe you don't want to think about it anymore. In your village, there are 3 main sources of water: wells, streams, and rain. All 3 are sweet traders. The well is deep, damp, and often tainted with waste, from animals and people alike. No filters. No chlorine. Just rope. A wooden bucket. And the thin hope that today, no rat corpse floats to the top. The stream flows through the woods. Sounds clean, right? But you don't see what happens upstream. Someone could be rinsing a dead goat. Or emptying out the remains of a pagan sacrifice. You drink a cup. And a few days later you're curled up with a bloated stomach and a groan that won't stop. And rainwater? Sounds like a gift from the heavens. But it drips down from mossy roofs. Through moldy wooden gutters. Into clay jars where birds sometimes nest. The taste? Indescribable. But your body responds clearly. Vomiting. Fever. Diarrhea without mercy. You sigh. Set the jug back down. And wonder, why not just boil the water? Oh, you've tried. But boiling water takes firewood. Firewood you don't have. And if you do, you'll use it for cooking porridge, not water. Besides, boiling takes time. And time here is spent plowing, harvesting, stitching, and trying not to freeze to death. So, the medieval mind invented a creative solution: replace water with beer. Not the sharp, hoppy 6% kind from modern bars. No, this is small beer. Low alcohol. Tastes like stale rice water. But brewed by boiling ingredients, meaning it kills most bacteria. Even children drink it. Adults see it as a basic part of the meal. Not to get drunk, but to survive. Beer becomes the replacement for water in nearly every meal. You drink it morning, noon, and night. When you're thirsty. When you're sick. When there's nothing else. Not because you like it, but because you don't want to die from water. Water is a luxury, not because it's rare, but because clean is still a myth. People start believing drinking water makes you sick. Some monks even preach that water weakens the body, opens the pores of the soul, letting demons enter. You think about bathing, then immediately forget the thought. Bathing with dirty water just makes you dirtier. Bathing with clean water? Doesn't exist. Bathing is a luxury. Most people bathe 2 or 3 times a year. The wealthy might bathe once a month, usually after Easter. For the soul, too. In larger towns, there are public bathhouses, big buildings, communal tubs. Everyone sits and soaks together. Sounds like a spa? It's not. The smell is a mixture of old sweat, hot ale, rosemary oil, and poor decisions. Some bathhouses turn into places for gossip, feasting, and, let's be honest, secret rendezvous. Result? The church bans them. Bathing becomes suspicious behavior. You once tried heating water to wipe yourself down. Once. But as soon as you set the bowl on the ground, a gust of wind slipped through the door crack, and the water went cold instantly. You sat, washed your face, and broke out in shivers. The next time, you just wiped off with an old cloth. You remind yourself, everyone smells the same. Body odor becomes the scent of community. And if someone smells too clean, they're probably a witch. So, you drink beer instead of water. Wipe yourself down with rags instead of bathing. And every time thirst hits, you whisper to yourself, "At least I'm still alive." Outside, it's still dark. The wind still moans. And somewhere in the village, someone is coughing. Deep. Dry. Heavy. Not from the cold. But maybe from the water. You curl deeper under your blanket, hoping tomorrow brings fog, not rain. So you can go to the fields. So you can make porridge. And if luck smiles, maybe you'll find a barrel of water that only sort of smells bad. The next morning, you wake up feeling not great. Your throat is still dry. Your body as stiff as the hoe you forgot in the field. But what grabs your attention first isn't the cold or the stale smoke. It's your mouth. It feels like someone shoved in a fistful of dry grass, tossed in some pebbles, and stirred it all with fireplace ash while you slept. Welcome to the medieval smile. You yawn. Your teeth clack together. A dry, brittle sound. A sharp ache shoots across your jaw, like someone just stuck a needle into your gums. You know exactly which tooth is causing it. Lower left molar. It's been aching for a week. And now it tastes metallic. Not because there's metal, but because it's rotting from the inside out. You want to brush your teeth. You really do. But with what? No toothbrush. No toothpaste. No floss. No mint. No mouthwash. Nothing. In the 14th century, oral hygiene is not just a luxury, it's not even a concept. Some people chew on sticks, called chewing sticks. Some rub their teeth with ashes, or salt, or crushed brick powder. Others rinse with vinegar. Sounds natural, but it's really acid, eating away at your enamel bit by bit. You could try scrubbing your teeth with cloth. But the cloth here is what you use to wipe feet, dishes, and sometimes go dumb. So, you don't. Your teeth are yellow. Plaque builds up. Your gums are red, swollen, bleeding a little every time you bite into bread that's too hard. And you've learned to live with the smell of your own breath. It's not laziness. It's lack of options. If you're a noble, Maybe you get powdered cleanser made from crushed eggshells or sea salt. But you still lose your teeth anyway. Because nobles eat more sugar, a fancy new thing from the East. As precious as diamonds. More sugar. More cavities. That's why the rich often lose their teeth faster than the poor. You get up. Look at yourself in the tin mirror hanging on the wall. One front tooth slightly discolored. A molar turning grayish blue. And a smile only someone who loves you very, very much could look at for long. You swallow. It hurts. And wonder, what if this tooth truly goes bad? Well, there are no dentists. But there is one option, the barber. Yes. Barbers in the 14th century do more than cut hair. They also pull teeth, stitch wounds, and saw off limbs when needed. That's why their signs have red and white spirals, symbolizing blood and bandages. If you go to the barber for a tooth extraction, you'll sit in a rickety wooden chair. He'll hand you a block of wood to bite. Then grab a rusty iron tool. No anesthetic. No sterilization. No countdown. Just one sudden jerk, violent and fast, followed by your scream. If you're lucky, the tooth comes out whole. If not, it snaps halfway. And he keeps going. Then you get strong alcohol. Not to disinfect, but to knock you out. Your mouth swells like an eggplant. Bleeds for days. If it gets infected, you might die. If not, congratulations. You now have a new whistle hole in your smile. Some go to physicians. But they still believe in, for humors, meaning, your toothache might be due to too much blood. Or not enough yellow bile. Their cure? Cutting. Burning. Or bloodletting. No one checks your enamel. No one offers veneers. No one asks? On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is the pain? Pain is assumed. And bad teeth mean acceptance. You learn to live with it. Chew on the side that doesn't hurt. Avoid anything too hard. Eat slow. Don't laugh too wide. Eventually you begin to feel it's just part of life. Everyone around you the same. They all have dental problems. Everyone's breath is heavy. Every smile, gap-toothed. No one speaks from closer than arm's length. You remember yesterday. The village priest said something about honest souls needing no pretty teeth. You smiled at him. And immediately, winced. But you smiled anyway. Because if it still hurts, you're still alive. You've just finished breakfast, if you can call it that. A spoonful of yesterday's leftover pottage. A slice of bread harder than river stone. And a sip of beer as bland as old rice water. Your tooth still hurts. Your throat's still dry. But the sun is up, which means you're not allowed to sit any longer. You put on your worn wool tunic. The inner lining tore last winter, but you kept it. Not out of sentiment, but because you have no other. Outside, the wind blows. Not the kind that dances gently through your hair. No, this is wind that slashes your cheeks. Wind that stabs your back like icy needles. You head out to the fields. Your wooden hoe, carved from an old tree limb, has served you through 2 harvests. There's a crack near the handle. Every swing creaks, like your own spine echoing time. The workday begins. No bells. No Slack notifications. No team call. Just the rooster. A few groans. And the sluggish sighs of thirsty cabbage leaves. You dig. With your hands. With your hoe. With your knees, when your legs give out and you drop down. Every breath you take brings in a little dust, a little chicken poop, and a little bit of blind hope that this year, the weather will be kind. You plant seeds, drawing tiny furrows by hand, dropping them in, covering them gently with patience passed down from generations. No fertilizer. Just cow dung, urine. And if you're really desperate, you chew grass and spit it in. Farming in the Middle Ages isn't organic gardening, like the influencers say. It's a losing argument with nature. A constant wrestling match with bugs. A silent negotiation with weather that doesn't care. You don't have a watering schedule. You have instinct. You watch the sky. Count the dew. Touch the soil. If it's soft, you plant. If it's hard, you wait. If it's too wet, you cry. Every season is a gamble. Spring for planting. Summer for praying. Autumn for harvesting. Winter for eating what's left and praying there's no drought, no plague, no sudden tax increase from the Lord who woke up with new ideas. You work 6 days a week. Sundays are for church. But if the crops are late, you plow. If your child is sick, you plow. If you're bleeding, wrap it. Then plow. No one asks if you're okay. There's no word for burnout. No workshops on work-life balance. Here, work is life. And it never stops. You work beside your father, your brother, your wife, your children who cry from hunger and lice. No one complains. Because complaints don't soften soil. Complaints don't make wheat grow faster. Are there other jobs? Sure. Blacksmiths, carpenters, tanners, bakers. But don't be fooled. They work from sunup to sundown too. With burned hands, soot-streaked faces, surrounded by smoke and dead skin. They hunch. Their joints swell. And they still pay taxes to the same Lord. You remember the last time you didn't work, when you stepped on a nail. You stayed in bed one day. That night you burned with fever. Next morning, you limped into the field, foot wrapped in old cloth, lips clenched, and kept cutting grass. You once saw an old man collapse in the field, dead from exhaustion. No one cried. No one gasped. They dragged his body into the shade, and kept working. That evening, the priest came, said a few words. The next day, the old man's grandson took his place. You don't expect year-end bonuses. There are none. You're paid in food, if the harvest is good. If not, you borrow. And if you can't repay, you lose your field, your home, and you're pushed to the village edge, where the ground is colder, and pigs go missing. You ever seen anyone retire? No. People stop working only when they die, or collapse. And even then, they still work, at least by teaching the grandchildren how to tie the harvest sacks tight. You remember one cousin, used to be strong. Got grazed by lightning once, couldn't speak clearly afterward. But still, he plowed. Because if he didn't, his wife and kids would starve. You had dreams once. You wanted to learn to read the Bible, draw maps of the world. But then your back curved. Your hands thickened. Your eyes blurred from dust. Dreams are like seeds. If they fall on bad soil, they never sprout. You watch the sun begin to set. Another day ends. You're still breathing. Still have all your fingers. That counts as a good day. You put your hoe away. Drag your feet home. And ask yourself, what if it rains tomorrow? Then you shake your head. Here there is no what if. Only, you must. As you walk back from the fields, night has fallen. A dull grayish purple, like old ashes, settles over the village. In your mind, the sounds still echo, the thunk of hoes into earth, the heavy breaths, the chorus of insects rising and falling like a soundtrack you never asked for. You feel cold. Not the breeze on your skin kind of cold, but the deep kind. From your soaked bare feet. From the sweat on your back that's turned to ice. From the damp, mildewed wool sweater that long ago stopped holding warmth. Winter here is not a season of white snow and twinkling lights. It's a season of teeth chattering, of numb legs, of groaning toes, and of a silence that spreads like a wet blanket over every hope. Your house has no glass windows, just a crude wooden door. Wind slips through the cracks like it, too, is searching for a place to sleep. And you, even if you burn every last stick of wood in the hut, cannot stop the chill from crawling into your pores. You curl up, pull your limbs in, hold on to your own breath for warmth. On nights like these, you often wake with no feeling in your feet. And if you're lucky, you'll still have all 10 toes to walk with tomorrow. Eventually, winter passes. not in a dramatic way, but slowly. Like an unpleasant guest who finally leaves after slurping up the last bit of pottage. Spring arrives. With a little sunlight, a little mud, and a little hope. But the season you truly fear is summer. Because when a medieval summer arrives, it doesn't come alone. It brings flies, mosquitoes, stench, and a kind of heat that makes you question the existence of mercy. You wake inside a wooden house that's become an oven. No fans. No air conditioning. No breeze. Just thick walls filled with the scent of old sweat, livestock manure, and bread that went bad last week. You want to shed layers. You can't. Here, showing too much skin is provocative. If you're a woman, bare shoulders might earn whispers of unnecessary temptation. If you're a man, sleeves stay long, even if your armpits have turned against you before the sun is halfway up. You step into the fields. The sun falls on your head like a red-hot iron pot. You wear a straw hat you wove yourself. It helps for about 5 minutes. Then the sweat comes. Down your back. From your forehead into your eyes. From your legs into your boots, if you're lucky enough to have boots. Flies land on your skin. Mosquitoes buzz around your ears. Wasps hum by the weeds. The whole field feels like an insect banquet. And you are the main course. You drink water. Then worry. Water might give you diarrhea. But without it you'll faint. You remember a summer 3 years ago. A blacksmith, strong, with a laugh like thunder, collapsed mid-swing at the forge. They said he was cooked by the sun. No one knew the words. Heat stroke. Just that. He never got back up. Summer grants you no rest. The crops still need watering. The weeds still need pulling. The cows still need bathing, even if you don't. You try to sleep at night. But your house is now a steamer. The air is thick. Everyone lies an arm's length apart, not out of manners, but because it's too hot to be near anyone. You remember a night you dreamed you were swimming in a cold river. Then woke soaked in sweat. Chest heaving. Legs swollen from mosquito bites. You think, maybe there's somewhere cooler. But you know better. The church is too loud. The cellar is full of rats. And the river? Black as ink, filled with everyone's private offerings. You learn to live with the smell of sweat, of maggots in the compost, of people who haven't bathed in 3 months. No one finds it strange, because everyone smells the same. Then comes autumn. Cooler, prettier. But it's also harvest season. You're back to the hoe, the baskets, the sweat. No time to enjoy the breeze. It passes over you like a stranger nodding hello. Each season brings its own trial. Winter freezes you. Summer roasts you. Spring molds you. Autumn works you to the bone. You begin to realize, weather isn't a natural occurrence. It's a power. A crownless king. A faceless master. A torturer with no need for reason. You don't hate the weather. You fear it. Because weather doesn't just change your mood. It decides if you live or die. If you eat or starve. If you heal or wither. And most of all, it does not care what you think. This morning, when you wake up, the first thing you notice isn't the light. Or the rooster. It's the smell. Your own. A familiar blend, so deeply ingrained you no longer recognize it. But if someone got close to you right now, they'd swear they were standing in a fish market, a goat pen, and a damp wood-burning kitchen, all at once. You want to bathe. The idea sounds simple. Dip your body in water. Scrub away the dirt, the sweat, the long-term tenants living on your skin. But this is Europe, in 1325. Bathing is not simple. In fact, bathing is suspicious. You glance around your home. There is no bathroom. No tub. No shower. No soap. No clean towel. Nothing. Just an old wooden bucket. Lined with a few damp pieces of straw. Sitting in the corner of the hut. You try to remember the last time you bathed. Ah, yes. Easter. Roughly 3 months ago. That time, the whole village bathed. Each household heated a bit of water, poured it all into the same tub. One person went in at a time. No water change. Each bather soaked in the remnants of the person before them. The last person? They got a slick layer of grease floating on top, like cold soup fat, with legs. No one complained, because no one expected more. You once heard that frequent bathing was harmful. Open the pores. Let bad spirits in. Monks preached that dirt on the skin protects the soul from sin. Sounds absurd. But people believed it. And if you tried to bathe alone, too often, too fragrantly, people would look at you like a witch. You remember hearing of a widow who bathed twice in 1 week. Rumors began. People whispered she was washing away guilt, that she used strange herbs, that she was seen standing beneath the moonlight. And that was that. A small trial. A wooden stake. A pile of firewood. After that, the village bathed less. Just to be safe. You look at the bucket and sigh. Should you bathe today? You decide, just a wipe down. You grab a rag, the same one used to wipe faces, hands, and sometimes the bottom of the cooking pot. Dip it in a bowl of water. Wipe your face, your neck, your armpits. By then, the cloth has changed color. You stop. The smell is still there, but less. That's enough. As long as it's not too strong when you walk into church on Sunday. You remember being a child, seeing a wealthy lady, a noble from the abbey, with her own bath, made of oak, cushioned. Servants poured in warm water. Something fragrant, dried flowers, maybe orange peel. She bathed once a week. People called her the one who smells like heaven. And you? You smell like the farm. Smoke, horse sweat, fireplace ash, damp grain. You live in it. You get used to it. And slowly, you stop noticing. The scent seeps into your clothes, your blanket, your hair, into every corner of your hut. If someone from the future walked in, they'd gag. But not you. Because everyone smells the same. You once tried rubbing herbs on your skin. After a day in the fields, you just smelled like crushed plants. You've heard of soap. Real soap. Made from animal fat and lye. But expensive. Only nobles use it. You might use wood ash. Or lye made from burned bean husks. It stings. And smells like spoiled porridge. Your hair? You rinse it with cold water. Sometimes beer. Some say beer makes it shiny. Others say it attracts lice. You don't know who's right. But you still use it. Because it's better than nothing. Your nails? Always black. Not because they're dirty. But because the dirt is part of you now. You once clawed through a field for 3 straight days. Since then, your nails never truly came clean. You wonder, if I had a tub, a towel, warm water, would I be happier? Maybe. But then you think, would I even have time to enjoy it? Because here, bad smell isn't shameful. It's proof that you've lived, that you've worked, that you've existed in this world with all 5 senses. And maybe there's nothing more honest than that. You wake up today and know something's wrong. It's not the smell, not the lice. It's your stomach, bubbling like a pot of undercooked pottage. You try to sit up. Your head feels like a brick's been nailed to it. Your eyes are dull. Your forehead burns, but your hands and feet are cold, like a Scottish winter. You sip some water. Mistake. Your stomach twists instantly, like a rope being wrung dry. You, a seasoned peasant, have lived through many miserable days. But this feels different. Deeper. Heavier. Like your body is quietly quitting, while your mind can only sit and watch. In the 14th century, a cold isn't just rest and lemon water. A cold might be the beginning of the end. You stumble to the doorway. Not for anything in particular. Just to sit, breathe, and hope not to vomit on your own boots. A neighbor passes, sees your pale face, They whisper. Must be the humors. Out of balance. The humors? Yes. For sacred fluids govern all health in the Middle Ages: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Any imbalance makes you ill. And if there's too much of something, it must be released. You're taken to the village healer, an old man with graying hair, tangled beard, robe stained with ink and soot. In one hand, a leather notebook no one can read. In the other, a jar of live leeches. He takes your pulse. Not with fingers, but by looking at your skin, sniffing your breath, and asking, "What did you eat lately? Have you thought about sin?" You're not sure what sin has to do with diarrhea. But you answer anyway. Had some turnips. He nods. Root vegetable, cooling. Clashed with the black bile. Diagnosis: blood must be released. You lie on a crooked wooden bench. A clay bowl is set beside your arm. A dull blade. No antiseptic. No clean cloth. No one asks, "Are you sure?" Just the healer's hand, stretching out your arm and slicing. Blood flows. Not much, but enough to make your vision blur. They believe if you're sick, your blood is too hot, and hot blood must be let out. Once the bowl is half full, he stops, nods in satisfaction, then hands you a pouch of herbs. No label. No dosage. Just something green. Smells like trampled grass mixed with fireplace ash. Soak it in ale. Drink before sunset. You follow his instructions. And almost immediately, your entire digestive system stages a full evacuation. It feels like you've been cleaned out with vinegar, ale, and a well-aimed donkey kick. It's working. The healer grins. The toxins are leaving. You nod. Trembling. Trying not to pass out face first into the dirt. Sometimes, instead of cutting, they use leeches. Stick them to your body. Wait for them to fatten. Peel them off. Save them for next time. If you have a fever, they press cold clay on your forehead. If you're vomiting, they boil anise and honey. If you're wounded, they sprinkle fireplace ash on the cut and mutter a prayer. Some recover. Others don't. When they don't, people just say, "It was God's will." You've seen a boy die of fever after a bee sting. A mother lose her child in childbirth. An old man pass away from a toothache. They all saw the healer. They all got their humors balanced, but illness shows no mercy. If you're a noble, you might summon a physician from the city, a scholar with a Latin name, a medical degree, and elegant handwriting. But in the end, he'll still bleed you, or use leeches, or prescribe a potion made of sulfur, amber, and high-proof wine. You once heard of someone who treated illness by placing a live frog on the patient's stomach. When the frog died, the sickness had been drawn out. You asked, "What if the frog doesn't die?" They said, "Leave it longer." Medieval medicine doesn't care about germs, viruses, or immunity. It runs on instinct, handed down guesses, and faith that if you survive, it was divine intervention. And strangely, sometimes, it works. Not because of the treatment, but because your body fights like a cornered animal. You don't live because the healer cured you. You live because your body refused to die. You collapse after your treatment. Weak, shaking, but still breathing. And you begin to feel grateful. Because today, you're still alive. And in this century, surviving an illness is almost a miracle. You've just dragged yourself home. It's already dark. Not the gentle, fairy tale kind of darkness, where candlelight glows on a warm supper. No. This is the thick kind. Suffocating. Sitting heavy on your shoulders like the hunger groaning in your gut. You step inside the thatched cottage. No one greets you. Everyone's too busy, surviving. In the corner, an old cracked clay pot boils away. No one knows when it started. No one's quite sure what's inside. It only has one name, familiar, ominous, inevitable: pottage. The national dish of the poor. A kind of thick porridge, or thin soup, depending on how much water you manage to find that day. made from whatever could still be eaten, or still looked edible. You sit down. Not on a chair. On a chunk of log someone chopped off a dead tree last year. Your hand touches the wooden bowl. It's warm, but not fragrant. No clear scent. Just a bit of rising steam, musty, earthy, with maybe a hint of rotting turnip. You scoop up a spoonful. The pottage clings to the spoon like tar. Thick. Sticky. You spot something round. Maybe a bean. Maybe a frog's eye. You don't ask. Around here, the less you know, the easier it is to swallow. There's bread. A small piece. Hard as a whetstone. Called a trencher, once used as a plate. Now eaten too. It's gray, made from barley flour mixed with tree bark. You try to break a piece. It doesn't budge. You try biting it. You hear a crack, not sure if it's the bread or your tooth. Beside it, a piece of old cheese. Not the creamy kind. The green kind. Cracked on the surface like dried river mud. The smell makes you turn away. But you still eat it. Because your stomach has given up on dignity. Salt? Luxury. Meat? Dream on. If today's a holy day, or you've got a cousin in the monastery kitchens, maybe you get a sliver of salted pork, chewy as rope. Otherwise, it's turnips, beans, foraged greens, and if you're lucky, a bit of fat scraped from the bottom of last year's stew pot. You once heard of someone eating bread made from rye infected with ergot, a poisonous fungus. They began twitching, raving, screaming through the village about dragons chasing them. Folks called it St. Anthony's fire. You call it a bad dinner. Drinks? There's no clean water. You drink weak beer. Small beer, they call it, just enough fermentation to kill bacteria. Not enough to get drunk. Even children drink it. Because river water is where people wash feet, rinse pants, and dump chamber pots. All at once. You've seen people die from spoiled meat. They call it the rotted gut. A poetic way to say food poisoning. No one has a fridge. Meat is hung by the fire. Salted. And you hope for cold weather. On warm days, flies are the only preservation, laying eggs faster than rot sets in. After dinner, you don't feel full. Just full enough not to die by morning. You glance around. The whole family is eating. No one talks. Just chewing. The scrape of wood on wood. The soft sound of breath. Because talking wastes energy. A child asks for more. Their mother scrapes the bottom of the pot. Pulls up one spoonful of gray, cloudy liquid, the color of footbath water. The child smiles. Drinks it like wine. You remember an old saying, food is fuel. But here, it's more like food is fight. Each meal is a battle, not for fullness, but for survival. You finish. No one washes the bowl. Just flip it over on the dirt floor. In the morning, someone will knock out the scraps. And refill. You lie back. Your stomach gurgles. Feels like a frog is dancing inside. But you know, tomorrow, it'll be the same. Because there's no other option. And you tell yourself, at least I didn't get food poisoning today. A small victory. In a big world. Filled with hunger. After that silent dinner, you think maybe, finally, it's time to rest. But then, the bells ring from the village church. Not a fire alarm. Not a call for the healer. Just a reminder, it's time to pray. In the Middle Ages, you don't have clocks. You have bells. They ring every morning, noon, and night. Like a mother calling you to dinner. Only this time, if you don't come, it's not hunger you risk, but your soul. Religion isn't just part of life. It is life. The frame holding everything together, or at least, making you believe it all has a purpose. You throw on a torn cloak. Drag your feet to the church. Not because you're especially devout. But because if you don't show up, Agnes, the neighbor, will look at you like you just strangled St. Peter's chicken. Inside the cold stone church, you feel the scent before anything else. Damp stone, candle wax, and unwashed bodies from last week. The priest's voice echoes in Latin. You don't understand a word. But that's fine, you nod anyway. Because the Bible is written in a language only the educated can read. And you? You sit. You bow. You cross yourself. Everything else, God will handle. Or not. Sundays are for rest. But not the sleep-in kind. It's for Mass. For confession. For reflecting on your sins. Like stealing an egg? Glancing at the baker's daughter? Thinking unholy thoughts about Agnes? Yep. Still sins. The priest says sin brings bad harvests. When it doesn't rain, no one blames the weather. They blame those who don't pray hard enough. You were once singled out for not kneeling long enough. You've learned. Next time, you kneel until your knees turn purple. Feast days are common. Very common. Saints' Day. Repentance Day. Baptism Day. Seed Blessing Day. Harvest Day. Thanksgiving to the Sky Day. Each one means no physical labor. But instead you stand. You kneel. You chant. You fast. You listen to sermons that last as long as a plague. You remember one homily that dragged on for 3 hours. Your stomach was empty. Your head tilted from lack of sleep. The priest spoke of hell. Of rivers of fire. Hooks of iron. 3-eyed demons. You shivered not from fear, but because wind cut through the hole in your tunic. You believe in God. But you also believe that sometimes God is busy. You've prayed for 3 days to cure your fever. And today, you still have diarrhea. Even so, you go to Mass. You pay your tithe, 1/10 of your harvest. Not optional. Mandatory. Grow grain, give grain. Own chickens, give eggs. Have nothing? Then give your repentance. And if repentance isn't enough? The church has methods. You once saw a woman forced to wear the scold's bridle, a metal head cage with a tongue-pressing bar. Her crime? Insulting the priest. A public punishment. The whole village watched. No one looked away. And she never spoke again. You didn't ask. You didn't smile. You just turned your eyes downward. Religion teaches humility. And fear. Not of God, but of His representatives. Still, in your darkest hours, when the crops rot, when your mother burns with fever, when the hens stop laying, you return to the church. You pray. Not because you're sure you'll be saved, but because, who else can you trust? When all else collapses, the church still stands. Like a cold giant, Bible in one hand, your eggs in the other. You know you are only a speck of dust. But at least, there is somewhere to whisper your hopes. Even if they're lost among 500 other whispers. Maybe God will hear. Maybe. If you're listening to this in a warm bed, with clean sheets, maybe take a moment to whisper a small thank you to the present. Because if you were a woman, living in the year 1325, your bed had no mattress. And no time to lie in it. You open your eyes in a damp, thatched hut. It's still dark. No clock. But your body knows. It knows the fire hasn't been lit. The cows haven't been fed. The children are curled up from cold. And your husband is still snoring. You get up. Not because you think about it, but because the schedule is carved into your bones. Light the fire. Boil water. Scoop dumb. Mix feed. Wash baskets. Wake the children. Check the turnips. Mend a sleeve. Pick lice. Start breakfast. Pottage. Again. You don't ask. Do I get a break today? Here, a break means you're too sick to stand. If it's just a fever, or a nosebleed, or back pain from carrying too much wood, you still work. You were once called lazy for sitting down 5 minutes after childbirth. 5 minutes. After losing a bowl of blood. But no one blames them. Everyone's used to it. Being a woman here means knowing how to hand wash, carry children, gather herbs, twist rope, mend blankets, bake bread, stir stew, scrub pans, scrape bones, and soothe crying. all at once. Without complaint. You learn to do everything with one arm. The other is holding a child. You've cooked with your foot while both hands were busy washing and fanning the stove. No one taught you how. Life did. You're expected to be gentle, but strong, quiet, but never fall. Smile sweetly, but work like a mule. And childbirth? A gamble. No doctors. No sterile rooms. Just an old midwife and a blood-stained cloth. You've seen 3 women die this year from hemorrhaging. Another lost her baby due to a breech birth. No one asks why. Just mutters, God's will. You pray, let this one go smoothly. You know sometimes the child lives, but the mother dies. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's both. But still, you give birth. Because that is your role. To bear. To raise. To keep the fire. And if you can't, they'll call you useless. They'll say you're cursed. Possessed. Unfit to be a wife. If it's a daughter, you still get side eyes. Everyone wants a son. The child is raised on breast milk, mashed turnips, and hope. No vaccines. No cough syrup. Just boiled leaves, garlic oil, and prayer. You've rocked a baby to sleep at midnight with a lullaby you don't remember learning. Maybe from your mother. Maybe from the wind blowing through the thatch. You don't have time to cry. No place to scream. Crying is weakness. Screaming is witchcraft. You once saw a woman accused of using herbs to cause miscarriage. Dragged into the square. Tied hand and foot. Thrown into the river. If she sank, innocent. If she floated, guilty. You looked away. But you never forgot her eyes. Women in this time can't be priests. Can't read the scriptures. Can't choose whom to marry. Can't choose their life. But they're the ones holding that life together. You're the one burying the dead when plague hits. The one folding the blanket of your dead child. The one bandaging your husband's wound from war. The one who skips meals so the children can eat. You've thought, I wish I were a man. But then you also think, I wish I were anyone who didn't work from 4 a.m. to midnight. And you laugh. Thin. But real. Because you're still breathing. Still standing. Still doing it. You're not a princess. Not a nun. Not a queen. You're an ordinary woman in a world too cruel for poetry. But you still stir the pot each morning. Still hum lullabies each night. And in that silence, there is a kind of courage no one sings about. But it's there. You're sitting on the front step. There's no hot tea. No book in your lap. Just the last light of the day filtering through broken thatch. Dust dancing in the air, and your back, aching louder than any sound. You're just past 30. But you've seen over a dozen people die. A toddler who just learned to walk, fevered, convulsing, then gone in the night. A mother who didn't live long enough to name her child. An old man who was laughing until he wasn't. In this world, death doesn't send warnings. It comes quickly, needs no reason, and spares no one. You once thought, I'll grow old someday. I'll tell stories to my grandchildren. Then you realized, you've never really seen anyone old. Old here means over 50. Rare. Revered. But feared, too. Because they look like ghosts who somehow walked past death and kept going. You had an aunt. She made it to nearly 60. No teeth. Back bent like a sickle. Every step was a groan. But her eyes were sharp. And every sentence began with, back in my day. When she spoke, it felt like you were witnessing magic. The magic of surviving. But magic doesn't last forever. You've helped dig a grave. Not because anyone asked, but because in your village, everyone shows up when someone dies. The soil was hard. The shovel dull. But no one questioned the task. If you didn't bury quickly, the smell would bring rats. Then crows. Then sickness. There's no pretty coffin. No music. No eulogy. Just an old cloth, a few snapped branches, and a prayer from a priest who, you're certain, forgot the dead person's name. You've stood in that mud, heard a short verse read aloud. Not to honor the departed, but to warn the living. You could be next. And you believed it. You've seen someone strong at dawn, lying stiff by dusk after slipping on stone. You've seen a little girl singing one moment, coughing violently the next, and then still. You've learned not to hold anyone too close for too long. Not because you're cold, but because everyone's easy to lose. No one ever taught you how to bury someone. But you know. You place stones over the eyes. You tuck rosemary in their hands. You whisper something, anything, so their soul won't wander. You fear death. But more than that, you fear dying and being forgotten. So you live in a way that maybe, just maybe, someone will remember you. Maybe the child you once helped into the world. Maybe the neighbor you shared your last winter potato with. Maybe someone who heard you tell a joke once while scrubbing laundry by the well. No one will carve a headstone for you. No one will paint your portrait. But you hope, just hope, someone will sigh softly when they hear you're gone. And that will be enough. You don't have to remember it all. Just close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Let the sounds around you fade into nothing. Imagine yourself lying in a quiet thatched hut. Outside, a breeze drifts across the fields. Leaves rustle softly. The rooster has gone silent. The church bells in the distance have stopped. There is nothing left to do. No one is calling you. No one is waiting. You curl into your coarse wool blanket. No more itching. No more cold. Only warmth, rising gently from your own body. Like a small fire in a long night. Beside you, a stone hearth long since gone out. But the embers still glow faintly. Like your heartbeat, slow, steady, and at peace. Let your mind drift with the smoke. Float past the turnip fields. Past damp thatched roofs. Past the sound of wooden spoons clinking clay bowls. Past the rainy days. The freezing days. The days when there was nothing left to eat. But still something left to hope for. You've lived through another day. You've walked another path. Now it's time to rest. Breathe gently. Close your eyes. Sleep now.